Was 44 years ago today. I just wanted to be home. We'd been driving in this U-Haul truck for almost 2 days. Uh, what had seemed like a good plan had gone just terribly wrong. Um, a group of us had gotten together and decided if we pooled our money, we could rent a van from U-Haul and we could all get back to New York for probably about $15 a person. And the more people we could get to ride in the van, the better off we'd be. And so we had gotten 14 people who were interested in going. And the only problem was the only van that we could find that U-Haul had wasn't roadworthy. It had bad brakes, bad tires, and this really kind of funky transmission. And there was no way it was going to make it out of Illinois. And the only alternatives for the van were box trucks, 14 foot, 17 foot, 24 foot. We opted for the 14 foot. Loaded everybody in the back, threw in a couple of mattresses, and took off. The time that we spent waiting to get a new vehicle to swap out for the van had cost us almost a day and allowed a winter blizzard to blow in from the plains, and that made driving out of Illinois pretty treacherous. It was so bad that we actually spun out twice on I-70, and it took us, believe it or not, almost a full 16 hours just to get out of Illinois. The entire trip to New York was supposed to go somewhere between 16 to 18 hours, so this was just terrible. Things settled down though as we got into Indiana and Ohio. The roads got a little bit better, but we didn't make very good progress. We didn't go very fast. We weren't feeling totally competent with our driving, even though we didn't have any other bad experiences until we got to Pennsylvania. More to come. But the bigger problem we were running into is that the people in the back of the truck could only handle being there for an hour, hour and a half. And after that, they'd start beating on the back of the truck, and it was time for a pit stop. And the pit stops were taking longer and longer because nobody wanted to be in the back of the truck. We'd pull into a gas station, and people would start piling out of the back of the truck, and people who were filling up their cars would just look at us like, what in the hell's going on? We got into Pennsylvania and headed up from Pittsburgh to I-80, and we were on this little two-lane bridge heading north when we clipped a truck going the other direction. Didn't really hit it very hard, but hit it enough that we lost the driver's side mirror. You can't really drive a truck without that mirror, and so we had to stop at a U-Haul place and get it replaced, and that cost money in 3 hours. On we went, probably getting on into about 30 plus hours and approaching Pennsylvania and realizing we were in really big trouble in terms of money and gas mileage. We had realized earlier on in the trip that we had not been releasing the emergency brake fully, and that had explained some of the poor gas mileage. But the truth of the matter was the truck was just a dog. It didn't get good gas mileage, and the economics of this whole thing were predicated on us getting gas mileage for a van and using prices we had experienced in the summer, which were like around 40 cents a gallon. And what we were finding now with oil embargo and gas being scarce, it was costing more like 70 cents a gallon. We had this rather lengthy discussion. Do we get gas in Pennsylvania, or do we wait till we get to New Jersey? And we concluded that New Jersey would be a better place to buy the gas because it would be cheaper, we'd be closer to where it's refined. And it turned out that that was true. And just a little bit past midnight, we pulled into New Jersey and pulled into a gas station, and we're pleased to see that gas there was less than 60 cents a gallon. The only problem was that they had instituted gas rationing. You had to have a vehicle with a license plate number that ended even if you were going to buy gas on an even day. And we were pulling in on an odd day with an even number, and we couldn't buy gas, or so said the pump attendant, until we gave him some money, and then we were able to buy gas. It ended up costing us way more than if we had bought gas in Pennsylvania. We dropped some people at their houses in New Jersey, and I got to tell you, the George Washington Bridge never looked as good as it did till we saw it coming up. It was gloomy and dark yet. Dawn was just approaching, but that bridge looked so good until we saw the word toll. It's like, shit, I don't have money for a toll. What am I going to do? I pulled up and started explaining my plight to the toll lady, and she said, don't worry about it. No problem. This happens all the time. They have a little form they fill out. They give it to you. You got an envelope you mail back. You have to send them stamps or a check, no cash, and go on your way. And that's what we did. Stopped in the city, 181st Street, and let everybody off at the subway station, and they headed home. And I got back in the truck and headed towards Yonkers and my house. And got there, greeted by my dad, who had a big smile, happy to see me, and helped me get the truck cleaned up and returned. And I remember sitting around the table with him after all this and just being in a terrible mood. You know, it had been a bad trip. Everything had gone wrong. People hated me because I was the one that organized it, even though it was everybody else's idea. I just was the one that had some money and nobody else did. And anyhow, and this, that, and the other thing. And he said, look, this too shall pass. You know, the important thing is you're home for Christmas, and all those people made it home for Christmas too. And I thought, that's true. And then he looked at me and he said, and it looks like you got an early Christmas present. And I had no idea what he was talking about. But it seemed he had grabbed that envelope that the toll lady had filled out, and he had pulled it out and looked at it. And when she filled it out, it was make Ford model Econoline. And where there was the 8 digits to put in plate, it said MERYXMAS. Merry Christmas. And I thought, yeah, you're right. It's going to be a good Christmas. And that's a nice little present. So wherever you are, toll booth lady, Merry Christmas back at you. And happy holidays to the rest of you guys.